Welcome everyone to the webinar from LGSEC. This is the Explore New Funding Partner Finding Platform from the California Energy Commission, an Empower Innovation Platform demonstration. My name is Garrett Wong. I am the board chair for the Local Government Sustainable Energy Coalition, or LGSEC. We'll give folks just one more minute to get online, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for joining us today. LGSEC is happy to host this webinar with the California Energy Commission. Before we begin, we'd like to remind you of a few housekeeping items. I believe everyone is muted right now. In order to ask a question, we would like to direct you to the question and answer. You can also support other questions that may have already been submitted by voting on those questions. And our facilitator, Hannah, will help prioritize them during the Q&A session at the end. And if you are not already automatically muted, please make sure to check that you are. Before we begin, I'd like to say a little bit about LGSEC. The Local Government Sustainable Energy Coalition, we are the only statewide membership network representing local governments and their interest before the state's agencies. Together, LGSEC members advance sustainable energy and climate solutions to meet California's climate and energy goals, working, learning opportunities, and statewide collaboration. LGSEC has built a blueprint for California's energy strategy through the formation of local government partnerships, regional energy networks, and community choice aggregation programs. Currently, this year, we're focusing on decarbonization, microgrids, and public safety power shutoff proceedings. If you haven't already, consider joining our coalition. Currently, we have 40 members of cities, counties, regional leaders that represent over 2/3 of the state's electricity demand. So please consider joining us and make your voice heard at the state level. Now I'd like to briefly introduce our speakers today. We have three. The first speaker is Hannah Schanzer. She's a Civic Spark Fellow serving at the California Energy Commission, currently working with local governments and community-based organizations to bring clean energy projects to California's most disadvantaged communities. Our second speaker is Katrina Lenny Koenig. She's a supervisor within the Energy Research and Development Division at the California Energy Commission. Katrina leads a team that supports technology scale-up and outreach efforts to accelerate the transition to a clean energy future for all. Her research areas include sustainable communities, building decarbonization, and energy equity. And lastly, our speaker who will be guiding us through the Empower Innovation demonstration is Laura Vogel. She is an associate director at Navigant, a Guidehouse company, in the energy sustainability and infrastructure consulting practice. Laura leads the day-to-day Empower Innovation management team, working to grow and serve the Empower Innovation community, curate resources and funding on the online platform, and collaborate with partners. And now I'd like to turn it over to Katrina. Who will be platform.
All right, thank you, Garrett. Let me see if I have control. Great. So I'll begin the presentation. I just want to thank LGSEC for hosting this webinar and really getting their community engaged to hear about our Empower Innovation platform and the California Energy Commission's work towards advancing clean energy technologies and the role we see of local governments and communities. So just in thinking about our current moment in time, so a lot has been changing really rapidly. I think obviously there's been some really dire consequences, but we're also seeing some benefits to the behavioral shifts that have been necessary as part of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's hard to ignore now that we see extremely clean air, we see traffic congestion gone, we're witnessing a rapid decline in our carbon emissions. And that has had also interesting impacts when we think about oil demand. So oil demand has dropped rapidly as well, and that's had a real impact in oil prices, actually reaching the negative levels as people try to sell off contracts. And we're seeing excessive storage, and we don't have any more space for the oil. So production is going down. And these are some of the impacts and changes that are actually necessary in order for us to achieve clean energy goals, climate change goals. Is we'd like to see our air pollution go down. We'd like to see a transition away from fossil fuels. So let's talk about some of the impacts. So I cannot only highlight some of the environmental benefits that have taken place, but obviously we're seeing huge economic consequences of the way things have been shifted, right? So rapid amounts of unemployment throughout the country and California. And this is really unprecedented. If you look to the right, the graph shows the Great Recession had some amount of unemployment go up. It was also a little bit more over time, but to the far right, you see a huge peak in, can you guys hear me okay? I just got a notice that my sound was a little bit off, but all right. So we're seeing a huge peak in unemployment more rapidly than we've ever seen before. And we don't necessarily know how is that going to impact our long-term economic circumstances. So this is a real challenge that we're faced with. Great. Sounds good. Thank you. All right. So there are economic arguments around clean energy that oppose one another. So some people suggest that policies and investments in clean energy future may actually cause harm to our economy as it exists today and really hit working families. So you see that argument on the left when we think about perspectives on the Green New Deal. But I'd like to also highlight what's happened in the state of California. So in the state of California, we've implemented our cap and trade program in 2006. After the cap and trade program, we saw significant reductions in our greenhouse gas emissions per capita. Okay, but our GDP, on the other hand, continued to grow. And I would argue that this is potentially possible also because of the investments and changes and shifts that we're making to clean energy. We're saving energy, we're creating jobs. So just in thinking about the argument again for clean energy jobs. So clean energy jobs in California, we have over 500,000 people employed by either renewable energy, energy efficiency, and all the services that go into support those. That is 5 times more than our jobs created by our fossil fuel industries. So California does have a significant fossil fuel industry. We can see that in certain neighborhoods throughout our state. And but it does not compare to the availability of jobs within our clean energy sector. So that's something that we can be proud of. And something you may think that California is a bit of an outlier in the country, and we are to some extent, but if you see on the right-hand side, when we think about clean jobs in California, there's a significant amount of growth in this sector in many states throughout the country. And if you see, there's over 3.3 million clean energy jobs as compared to the 211 jobs that currently exist in the coal industry, gas fields and oil patches combined. So the numbers are not comparable. And so the argument of shifting those 211,000 jobs towards clean energy makes sense for me. I cannot have this discussion without talking about inequality. So when we think about environmental justice and how it impacts our communities, we're also seeing that exacerbated more and more by COVID-19. Okay, so communities that are impacted, that have been historically impacted by disproportionate amounts of air pollution, are also facing greater vulnerabilities to this current pandemic. And that's a real concern for our African American and Latino communities that are disproportionately burdened by air pollution and have historically carried that burden for much of California. So investments in a clean energy future in these communities is extremely important as we begin to notice how those impacts can affect them in other ways, not just in their health on a day-to-day, but also when concerns like COVID-19 arise. So some people would argue we need to get back to business. We need to get back to business fast. We need to do it how we've always been doing it in order to make sure that our economy continues and is strong. I would suggest we lead a sustainable path forward. I know we're all being faced with budget cuts, but however, we cannot turn away from our clean energy goals. This is going to provide our resilience for our future. This is going to provide the clean air that's necessary for us to be resilient to various health impacts. It's going to provide the infrastructure necessary to adapt to climate change. So we may be shifting our behaviors. I think all of us have seen some of the benefits related to telework. Can we continue to leverage some of those benefits? Can we create and sort of shift our society and our ways of doing business to facilitate a clean energy transition? So I think local governments have a huge role to play in this. I think also businesses, in thinking about how they can shift their practices, can really do that. I'll just say from the California Energy Commission's perspective, we were really quick to move to a telework, and we had to do a lot to change. And we're a huge, bureaucratic organization within the state of California, right? But the change happened fast. And we've definitely been able to adapt utilizing those online tools that are available to us today. So I really appreciate what the organization has done and what other organizations have done to support their workers continue to work throughout this crisis. We all know that climate change requires a rapid decarbonization, so moving away from fossil fuels. Supposedly we have under a decade to work to achieve this. Some would argue less time. Okay, so what are we going to do to move this transition forward? How are we going to do this, make this transition happen quickly? I think COVID-19 offers a vision into how people can mobilize around a common goal. So it's really important that we leverage some of these changes that we've put into place to support our clean energy transition, all while supporting a robust economy. Okay, so California's commitment to clean energy for all is really highlighted by, I'd say, these two policies, I think. So SB 100, this is the big goal that California has just implemented, where we're going to transition our electricity to 100% clean energy by 2045. That's going to be in stages. So by 2030, there'll be 60% clean energy. And today we're at 34%. Okay, some people don't think that that's quick enough. I would say that California is really driven to achieve these climate goals. And I think that we're super innovative, and I am hopeful that this transition happens quickly. Okay, the other aspect that I'd like to highlight is that we really want this transition to happen for everyone. We think that the most environmentally burdened communities should really be receiving the clean energy investments that they deserve. And also, I think it will help to create greater impacts if we're investing in these communities. So the EPIC program, as part of AB 25, invests 25% of our technology demonstration and deployment projects to disadvantaged communities, and an additional 10% to low-income communities. That means we're demonstrating technologies in these communities using our clean energy investments, and hopefully breaking through some of the barriers that exist to advancing clean energy in those communities. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our research program at the CEC. So we are a public organization that strategically invests funds in order to advance clean energy technology, really catalyze the change necessary to accelerate these policy goals that I've outlined ahead for you. The funding sources that we have are the Electric Program Investment Charge. That's really the program that I work most closely with, and we call that our EPIC program. So our EPIC program has $133 million available annually to invest in clean energy projects. And we open up for competitive funding solicitations, and teams come together and work to compete for those funds. We also have investments in natural gas. So the R&D investments in natural gas are not only for improvements in natural gas technologies, so to improve their efficiency, but they're also to help us transition away from fossil fuels. So this is really critical as we begin to decarbonize and move away from our existing natural gas infrastructure and transition to a cleaner energy future. We receive $124 million every 2 years for our food production investment program. That's called FPIP. That's for our food processors, and it's a large industry in California, and we're helping them to reduce their carbon footprint. That's also really helping us to support sustainability in our agricultural economy. Okay, so that's great for our future in California as well. We've also received $18 million to invest in low carbon fuels research and development programs. So that's supporting biofuels for clean energy future as well. So typically in advancing technologies, venture capital tends to play a role to help technologies come out of the research and develop and commercialize, move into the path where they're actually able to sell their technologies out in the market. So venture capitalists were really eager to invest in clean technology in the 2000s. So we saw a huge, significant kind of a boom in clean tech during that time. That's really where I got my footing as well. So we saw significant amounts of investments, not only in later stage technologies, but also in those early stage, what we call A-round deals. That's just when the technology is really getting started and still has a significant amount of time to get to market. Well, right after the Great Recession, there was a huge decline in investments overall in general, but then those investments declined so much, and we did not see a return of investments from venture capitalists into early stage clean technologies. So what happens, right? We don't see investments in those early stage technologies. So we have a very small pool now of technologies that are getting to those later stages. If we're not investing in them with the private sector, who's going to be investing? The other issue that comes up with clean tech venture is what we call the valley of death. Okay, so this is a really great graph from UC Davis, kind of highlights how technologies move through their life cycle from sort of inception all the way to the point where they're actually able to generate revenue in the market. Okay, so what happens is we see a lot of investments early on from public grants and so forth in the research in our universities and whatnot, and then that tends to drop off. So what happens to those technologies? What happens to those innovative developments that come out of our universities? They tend to enter the valley of death and maybe not return. Okay, so that's really where the California Energy Commission has stepped in with what we call our entrepreneurial ecosystem. Okay, so we provide funding programs for these technologies to support startups to get their technologies out into market, to really be disruptors in what we see as our sort of this energy sector, right? So CalSeed is really our first touch point. This is the early stage kind of concept. They have some ideas. They have calculations around it or so forth, but they don't have the funding to move that forward. That's where we offer a small grant up to $150,000. With that grant, many of those companies are able to develop a prototype or a proof of concept with that funding. And now the prototype can move into what we call the lab demonstration phase. And that's where we've developed our most recent program is called CalTestBed. So we've worked with the UCs and Lawrence Berkeley National Labs to open up their laboratories to these technologies to test the prototypes in their labs. So that's really phenomenal opportunity. It's really been an unprecedented level of effort from our UCs, and we just got that program started, so I'm really excited about it. We also, as we move through, we begin to look at pilot demonstration in order to demonstrate the concept in the real world after the lab demonstration. And Bridge provides that kind of bridge funding that it's supposed to bridge these technologies out of research and into market. So that's a larger amount of funds that we offer, grant funds. And it's meant for the later stage technologies to kind of support them through that valley of death. RAMP is our final program. It's sort of our final touch point at this point. So RAMP, it helps these technologies develop manufacturing processes and also manufacturing lines so that we can continue their manufacture within the state of California. And that's going to bring jobs to California. It's also going to improve and reduce the costs of manufacture for these technologies to actually be cost competitive in the market. Along those lines, we've developed an entrepreneurial support system. Okay, so part of that is the Empower Innovation Platform that we're going to talk about today. The Empower Innovation Platform is really where we're bringing together this clean tech community to build a support system to advance these technologies. We also have our innovation clusters. So we have 4 regional clusters throughout the state of California. We have a San Diego Cleantech Incubator, which is down in San Diego, Imperial Valley, so very Southern California. We have Lacey, which is our Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator, serves the Los Angeles region. We have Blue Tech Valley in Central Valley and supporting also our Northern California communities. And we also have Cyclotron Road, which supports the Bay Area region. Now I see the role of local governments really stepping in at this pilot and demonstration phase. If we can get local governments on board to be the early adopters, to demonstrate these technologies, to kind of help us overcome some of these non-technical barriers that we tend to run into, this is where they get started and they can help us to advance these clean energy technologies through the pipeline. We have funding available to local governments and other communities to be able to demonstrate these projects. So I really hope that you go to Empower Innovation to find some of these funding opportunities available and really help us to advance our clean energy future. So I consider innovation really an opportunity for us to break free from the old, but we also often have challenges around that. So how do we change, our status quo, our ways of doing things? The perfect example is this LED lighting, right? LED lighting has so many different forms and shapes it can take place and ways to operate it that we're not necessarily leveraging because we're so used to that Edison bulb that we can go and screw into our lamp and flip the light switch and it's all good. Okay, so we've really taken this amazing technology and we fit it into something that we think is good because it's our old way of doing things. And that's how the LED light bulb has really gotten its traction, is by making it fit within our old ways. Okay, we need to get over our old ways in order to make this transition happen, right? So we need to cut through the red tape of outdated codes and standards, of existing infrastructure that's not able to, say, be reshaped and reimagined, of our old habits. So do we really need to fly to a conference in order to be in attendance and to create the networking that happens. So I'd like us to kind of think about what is really in the way of these technologies really getting out into our communities. And I think local governments, local communities have a huge opportunity to facilitate that. So I'll just highlight a couple local government projects that the local governments have been strategic partners for us in really helping to advance technologies. And the first one I'll highlight is the city of Fremont. The city of Fremont installed the microgrid. It was the first microgrid at a fire station in the country. This is post-wildfire, and I think it's really important that we're supporting our critical infrastructure to be able to be there in times of need. So a microgrid, a solar microgrid, essentially uses solar energy storage and is able to operate independent of the grid. So if the grid goes out, like in, say, a wildfire situation or in a power shutoff situation, the Fremont microgrid, station microgrid, the fire station will still be operable, will still be a resource for their community, and can also be a center for support. This project has received global attention. So people have come to visit from other countries, Australia and so forth, to come see this site. So I think it's an excellent example of what a community can do to be an early adopter, to really kind of take that incremental risk of trying out something new, yet to reap these huge benefits in the end. And I think if we're not taking those incremental risks, the risks of not doing that are so much greater, right? The risks of not investing in clean energy are so much more beyond the risk of trying out some of these new technologies. All right, another example I think is a good example of what we kind of see as the future of our clean energy system. So we're really going to be needing to focus on local, regional resources. This is the city of Lancaster's Advanced Energy Community. And what they've done essentially is created a Lancaster Green District program where they're working with municipal facilities, churches, their commercial and industrial facilities to create generation and to link to what we call this virtual power plant. And this virtual power plant is going to begin to interconnect all these different resources. So now they have solar plus storage in their schools. They have 3 school microgrids that are supposed to serve as community resilience centers. And they'll also have 2 residential microgrids that can all roll up to this kind of virtual power plant, essentially using all the different resources, working together and optimizing how they're operated so that they don't need to depend necessarily on the electricity grid. So this is creating resilience, and this is also allowing for greater penetration of renewable energy. I think it's fantastic. Definitely, there are other communities that are also part of our Advanced Energy Community Program, and I'm really excited to see these programs get developed. So they're now moving into the build stage. I also wanted to highlight an upcoming grant funding opportunity that's really relevant for local governments. We see local governments as a key partner in this grant funding opportunity. And this grant funding opportunity is really working to address 2 of the major issues within the state of California. This is sort of pre-pandemic. We're looking at housing affordability and climate adaptation. And the way that we're working to sort of address these issues is through what we're calling the Next Epic Challenge. And the Next Epic Challenge is a design build competition. So project teams will be funded to create a design, and then they'll compete in order to get funding to actually build their design. And this is surrounding designing a mixed-use development that is affordable, that's equitable, climate resilient, so it's facing, addressing the climate vulnerabilities in that community, is cost competitive, so it's something that we could scale, so providing a good demonstration, an example, something that we can replicate, and something that's emissions free. And what we mean by emissions free, it's all electric, because you cannot use combustion and still achieve 0 emissions. Okay, so moving away from the fossil fuels infrastructure. I think many cities are moving towards that with their new construction projects. And I think it's part of the future of our clean energy system. So it's really important. In order for this type of scale of project to actually take place, it's sort of like, it's a big dream for this project to come forward. And what it's going to take is a network of strategic partnerships coming together to really work to advance this project. And so we also see it as an opportunity to bring together these diverse stakeholders through this project, but hopefully also to build the relationships so that they can continue to do this type of innovation in the future. So we see architectural firms as the designers, developers as the implementers, electric utilities and CCAs as sort of the people to carry forth the energy programs that are going to make this type of technology happen. And they're also the ones that we're going to work with to integrate with existing energy infrastructure. And then the local governments are going to help us to move these projects forward, to advance them, to make sure the planning and development happens, and to facilitate permitting and the other things that go into creating a project of this scale. Community-based organizations are also a key player. So community-based organizations work to engage the community, not only in the design, so say in the design, they're helping them helping the project team understand, well, what is it that the community needs? What is it that the vision for this community has for this type of development? And really integrating something that matches the community where this project will take place. The community-based organization is also critical in making sure that these technologies that get implemented are utilized by the residents that are participating. Also, we have our energy technology experts and developers. That's part of coming out of our entrepreneur ecosystem. These are the technologies that we see as game changers for the future of energy. And we want the project team to be working with these technology developers to integrate and demonstrate their technologies through this project. So this is a huge coming together of diverse stakeholders, diverse perspectives. So how do we go about doing this? So this is really critical in thinking about California Energy Commission's goals and really working with the people that are the game changers. So we really saw a great need to create and build a community around clean tech innovation. And that's what we've built. We've built Empower Innovation. It's an online platform, more relevant than past, I think, even given our teleworking situation. And it's an opportunity for people to network with a similar common vision for our future. So we see that engaging communities really takes trust and it takes time. So if we want to have meaningful community engagement, we need to be engaging early and often. We see that a holistic vision for these projects requires all the diverse perspectives to come together and highlight opportunities, highlight gaps, make sure we're addressing any of the issues that come up from the diverse stakeholders. And so we can have that complete solution necessary to achieve our goals. Also, this network is really critical in matching needs to available resources, right? So we are a very resourced country, organization, world. In fact, if we begin to build and leverage the networks necessary to match the needs with the resources available. So it's important that we build this more and more, and this platform is working to do that. So if you're a technology developer and you're looking for entrepreneurial services, the platform can offer that. If you're a local community and you're looking for a clean energy technology that will really change the way your community, say, moves around, then you might be able to find that solution on the platform. And I just want to highlight that we're really stronger together, right? So this is about building a coherent network that's working to achieve a common goal. So with that, I'm going to leave it to Laura Vogel, who's really been critical in getting this Empower Innovation platform going, and they've been a phenomenal partner in this. And I just want to highlight, it's also, if you are interested in the next Epic Challenge, you can go to this platform, and you can go to this platform to find a partner. And I think Laura will demonstrate that. So thank you.
Thanks, Katrina. Yep, I will show a few of the things that you just talked about. So let me switch over to sharing the Empower Innovation website here. All right. Hopefully you can all see catalyzing the cleantech community, empowerinnovation.net, up on my screen. Well, welcome to the Empower Innovation Network. We launched late last fall with the Energy Commission and have been growing ever since. So we reached more than 1,000 members and just over 360 organizations by the end of April. And as Katrina mentioned, Empower Innovation is both a professional networking platform and a resource with a lot of curated information at your fingertips. And I'll show you some of that as well. Also, as Katrina mentioned, our focus is innovation in clean technology and clean energy for anyone who is or wants to be involved. So this includes tech startups, investors, incubators, and also local governments, community-based organizations, engineering and construction firms, and more. Everyone has a role to play, as Katrina really nicely showed on her slides. So I'm happy to share some of the key features of the platform with you today. We'll be looking at some of the things that we hope will be most helpful for local governments pursuing clean tech. So funding opportunities, events, and resources that you can find on the platform. That's not everything that we have, but that's a lot of our most relevant features. When you first visit the platform at empowerinnovation.net, I recommend spending a little time checking out the homepage and the rest of the site. But for now, I will dive into funding opportunities. On the homepage, we have 6 featured funding opportunities that we rotate on a regular basis. And I will go to the complete funding opportunity directory by clicking See All here. So, as mentioned, one of the most important features on Empower Innovation is your ability to find clean tech related funding opportunities that may help your community, and also to look for a partner or partners to team up with to apply for that funding. In a few minutes, I will show you how to do that. First, I'll give a brief orientation of this directory. We have a variety of funding types shown here. In the filters on the left side, we have requests for proposals that might come out. We have government grants, private grants, demonstration opportunities, loans, and several other types of funding that are more focused on clean tech startups, like accelerator programs and pitch events. Currently, the vast majority of the opportunities are government grants. And when you first land in this directory, it is sorted in order by upcoming funding application deadlines. So you can quickly see what might be due soon, a brief description of what it is, and which organization is offering the funding. The funding directory can be filtered and searched to find exactly what you're looking for. So you can filter for funding type, as I just showed in this filter. Also look for a particular focus on equity. You can look for a particular status, so generally active or rolling or open, anticipated is coming up. So I'll show a brief example here. I might want to look for active and rolling opportunities. And then if I'm further interested in a particular topic area, I'll come to the Empower Innovation tag filter, which is a wide variety of relevant topic areas that you can search across the site. And maybe of these active and rolling applications, I'm looking for opportunities that might help my community's air quality concerns through a technology solution. You can also search for keywords in the search bar at the top. So I'll clear my filters for now. And if I know I'm looking for a California Energy Commission grant, or I'm interested in what's going on in the Energy Commission, I can quickly search Energy Commission. Active opportunities come up, but I also want to see what's anticipated. So I'm going to further filter both active and anticipated, because there are quite a few things coming down the pipeline. say I found an opportunity that looks interesting. I see one here that will sound familiar from Katrina's presentation, the upcoming Next Epic Challenge. So if I'm a government representative, perhaps I'd like to get involved with this epic opportunity if my city is considering new building development. Perhaps we even have a potential site and we would love for it to be zero emission. I'll click on the funding opportunity to view all of its details. And this is where I begin to look for a partner. Once you have a member account and are signed into your account like I am, you will see this blue Find a Partner button in the upper corner, right corner of the funding page. So I will go ahead and fill out a Find a Partner form. I'll click that button to enter some information that will help kickstart my networking on this opportunity. So as an Empower Innovation member, you also need to be associated with an organization on the platform to fill out this form. For this demonstration, I'm affiliated with Empower Innovation on the platform today. And I am seeking a partner for this opportunity. Coming at it from the local government perspective, where I might actually have a housing development in mind, I will say I am offering a demonstration host site. I think we would most want an EPC, an engineering and construction firm, to take us through this development project. So I'm going to indicate that I'm seeking EPC services. And then I probably also want to look for some partners who bring innovative technology solutions. And you can select as many as you need to in both lists. And you can add some more information in other if you're not seeing what you're really looking for. So then I'll click Publish. This is making my Find a Partner information viewable to others who are looking for partners on this particular funding opportunity. So not everyone on the platform can see it, only other people who have submitted similar information. And the same goes for me. So when I return to the funding opportunity page, so I'm going back to the Next Epic Challenge page, I will also now see other interested people with their organizations looking for partners here. So here my profile looking for a partner just showed up, and I can see a few other people who are already looking for partners on this anticipated opportunity as well. Here is where I would take on a little of the networking responsibility. So I could click through these folks and see if anyone's offering EPC services, for example. These are actual entries, so I won't put anyone on the spot, but if you click on their form and look at their information, you can directly message the person on the Empower Innovation platform. So once you click the name, there would be a send message button in the upper right corner where we did the Find a Partner form as well. So other people can also now message you if they click on your Find a Partner entry, and they may be reaching out. So after you submit a form, keep an eye on your Empower Innovation message inbox and your email notifications that would let you know you've received a message from someone. Once you've submitted this form for a particular opportunity, later you can easily revisit it to see who else has shown interest that you may not have seen before, by going back to your user dashboard. So when you're logged in, you'll have a little dashboard icon at the top in the main menu, which I'll click on right now. And when I'm logged in and I can go to my dashboard, eventually I will be able to see any partner requests I submitted under this Partner Requests tab. So here's my submission. I can easily go back and see if I want to get in touch with anyone else who was looking for a partner. Okay, so in addition to funding opportunities, I'll move on to events briefly. The Empower Innovation team collects clean tech, innovation, and climate and sustainability related events. Normally these are in-person and virtual events, but right now, of course, everything is virtual. To show you what we have on this calendar, I'll click on events in the main menu. At the top of the page, this opens our calendar. The default view is a calendar format. And it's similar to the funding directory. This is a directory that can be searched and filtered to find what I'm looking for. Right now I want to see a little more information about these events showing up on the calendar. So I will switch to grid view here in the upper right. The default grid view also shows events by their upcoming date, similar to the funding application deadlines in that directory. So scrolling down, I see a bunch of events. I see one that I might be interested in perhaps as a local government. Greenlining is hosting their annual economic summit later in May, and I can see it is offered virtually now from this badge, virtual available. I will go ahead and click on the Greenlining event. And this event page is where I can find a link to go to the external site to register on the left here. And then I can also add the event to my calendar directly. Since I can also filter and search the event directory, I might be interested in events that focus on some of these equity categories that we indicate here. So I'll go ahead and filter for all of them. And I can see several webinars, including the Greenlining event that I just checked out, as well as a whole webinar series related to tribal climate and health adaptation. So I'll spend just a couple more minutes on resources. So similarly, in the main menu is where you can find all of the resources that we collect on the platform outside of funding opportunities and events. So resources might be external resource libraries, public reports, tools and databases that cleantech companies and local communities can use. So this page, when I clicked on resources in the main menu, it opened up this page that provides an overview of the resources that we have. You can look at any of these different three items separately by clicking on their links here, or you can look at them all together in a directory. And that's what I'll do for now. So in that case, I'm just going to click Find Resources to find a few examples to look at today. So we're back in a directory. So again, we have filters to look for what you need. We have many resources for governments specifically. So that's actually one of our Empower Innovation tags, and I can use that tag filter here down at government. Clicking on a directory item from this directory will actually take me directly to the external link for that resource. So if I click on the Practical Guide to Building Climate Resilience, it will take me directly to this climatereadycommunities.org resource. In resources, I can also use the search bar if I have something specific that I'm looking for, if I don't see it in the tag topics. For example, if I'm with a city in a more rural area and I'm wondering if there are resources for us on the platform, I could just do that as a search and type in rural, and I get two interesting public reports on rural electrification and energy resources for the rural energy economy. All right, so I've taken us through funding, events, and resources. There are a few other just kind of quick things to know about Empower Innovation and how to interact on the site before I turn it over to Hannah to show you how to sign up. Only logged in members can see and message other members. So it's really important to sign up, and it also provides a little bit more of a layer of privacy around being, you're networking on the site. And you can also opt out of receiving introductory messages on the platform if you have concerns about that. But we do encourage everyone to be open to messages. As you saw, it's a really fundamental part of the networking and finding a partner on the site, but we do have some of those kind of privacy settings if local communities are worried about receiving a bunch of messages. So those are 3 of our big features. I will turn it over to Hannah to show you how to sign up for this platform.
All right, thank you so much, Laura. I am quickly going to do a walkthrough. My name is Hannah Schanzer. I'm a Civic Spark Fellow currently serving at the California Energy Commission, and I'm going to do a quick walkthrough on how to set up a personal profile and an organizational profile. So before you can set up a profile for your organization, you're going to have to set up a personal profile, and this should take max 3 minutes. So go to the Empower Innovation homepage and click Sign Up. If you have a LinkedIn account, you can sign up with LinkedIn, and it will immediately transfer your LinkedIn account into an Empower Innovation profile. If not, or if you don't want to connect with LinkedIn, you can sign in using your email address. So submit your first name, last name, email address, create a password. If you would like to receive email notification about Empower Innovation, including a monthly newsletter with new funding opportunities and resources, you can click this box. If not, you don't have to click. Then indicate what your what category is most relevant to your role at your organization. So at the California Energy Commission, I'd be a government employee. And then you have the opportunity to check the boxes of the areas that you're most interested in. And this will help the platform recommend resources and events and funding opportunities that might be interesting to you. So I would hit climate and environmental justice based on what I want to see. And that's it. You would submit and your profile would be created. So I already have a profile on this site, so I'm just going to pop over to my profile. But as soon as you make a profile, the site will take you to your dashboard, which is your landing page for Empower Innovation. On your dashboard, which you can always find by clicking this little ID card next to the About page, you can find all of your favorites, so funding opportunities or events or resources that you've hit the star and you want to come back to. It will also show all of the recommended organizations based on what you've indicated that you're interested in, organizations, funding opportunities, resources. And then this is also the place where you would see partner requests. All right, so once you have a personal profile, the first thing that you're going to want to do is check and make sure that someone from your organization has not already created a profile. So you go to Community right up at the top and hit Organizations. Being a member of the California Energy Commission, I'm going to just check and see if someone has already created a profile. Oh, right there. So click on your organization's profile and, oh no, it unlogged me in. Well, usually, one second, sorry. Yes, so it'll take you to your organization's page and you can hit Join Organization. This will send a message to the admins of your organization and they can either accept or reject you as a member of the organization. Once you're accepted as a member of the organization, you can send messages and requests for partnerships on the organization's behalf. You can be a member of up to 2 organizations because we know that some people are members of multiple organizations. However, if your organization has not been created yet, you look and it's not there, you can add your organization. So what you're going to want to do is go to Community, Organizations, and then hit the plus sign in the bottom right-hand corner. And you're going to hit Add Your Organization, the little square with the plus sign in the middle. And that will take you to an organizational form. So we don't have very much time left, so I'm going to go pretty quickly through this form. However, my email address will be attached in all materials that are sent out after this webinar. And if you have help or want consultation in how to set up this form, please reach out to me. So this is where you'd write your organization name and select your type of organization. If you are a local government, a CCA, a nonprofit organization, a community-based organization, or a local government, you would hit local communities. Your snapshot would be the first sentence that everybody sees when they look up your organization. So very briefly, where are you and what are your needs? And then the organization overview is a chance for you to really explain where your community is, the demographics, past projects, and what your community's most pressing concerns are and what your greatest needs. We recommend that you take some of this language from your website or climate action plan or a past grant that you've filled out in the last few years. You don't need to start from scratch to write the organizational overview. And then the rest of the form is really about communicating what your community's needs and desires are. So Cleantech product service that you're seeking, what industry you'd identify as, the business category, if you're a government, if you're a nonprofit, and then if you're a business category, a small business that falls into any of these business categories. Lastly, you'll be able to indicate if your organization is located in or represents a disadvantaged community, a low-income community, an opportunity zone, or a tribe. And if you're not sure if you fall into any of those categories, you can check the maps here. Lastly, here's a chance for your organization to indicate what past projects you've delved into and what you're interested and looking for in partnership. So we have what your organization has experience in, what your community's most pressing concerns are, and how you would describe your organization's needs. And then at the very end of the page, we give you the opportunity, if the categories above aren't specific enough, to really explain what your community is looking for. So I just want to take 1 second to show how a technology developer or a funder might find your community. So say, for example, I'm a technology developer and I'm looking for a disadvantaged community to be a host site for a technology. So I'd hit local communities, and then equity categories, I'd hit disadvantaged community, and community concerns, I would say air pollution. And that would give me a few community-based organizations and a local government. So I'm just going to hit the city of Arvin as a great example of an A+ profile, if we were giving out grades for filling out the profile. But the city has its short snapshot, a longer organizational overview with a history of projects in the city and awards that it's received in the past. And then it has area of expertise based on past project, community concerns, organizational needs. So if anyone filters for any of these community concerns or organizational needs, the city will pop up. And then a little sentence on what the city is seeking. So if you're looking for an example of a great profile, I would recommend checking out the city of Arvin. All right, so that is the end of the demonstration. We have some Q&A questions. I'm gonna stop my share, and we don't have that much time left, but I can guarantee that most of the questions have been answered in the chat, and everything that we are not able to answer on this call, we will be able to send out in an email and follow up. So sorry, there was so much to say, so we didn't quite get around to most of these questions.
Great, thank you everyone for participating and for submitting your questions. We are just at time, and I would like to thank again Hannah, Katrina, and Laura for doing their sharing their new platform. We encourage everyone to take a look at it. And again, thank you on behalf of the Local Government Sustainable Energy Coalition. There are lots of pertinent issues being discussed at the state level, and we really encourage you to consider membership so that way you can stay engaged and informed. Have a good day.